And welcome back to the Standard Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Jono.
And I'm your host, Chris. And welcome back to the breakdown, where we're going to cover the NFC breakdown. We're covering the NFC South, possibly the worst division in football last year.
Yeah, but you can say worst division with probably the most improvement to the weakest teams in this squad.
Yeah, I'm still not sure about that, but
there's a chance that you could see the bottom two not be the bottom two. There's a chance.
But that's how bad this division was. I mean, you have the two top teams barely make it into the playoffs, barely have winning records. The bottom teams were bottom feeders. And I don't see a lot of improvement. I think the Panthers are going to continue to be there. And we're going to start with the Panthers. So we're going to go worst to first. That's kind of our order.
In our finishes, yeah. That's the way we break them down. We'll go worst to first.
And so the first team being the Panthers. And here's the big things that they did. Right? They fired their head coach. They brought in Shane Steichen, quarterback guru, to help fix Bryce Young. I don't know how you fix Bryce Young. Put him on stilts or something. I think he has just so many issues. They brought in some young veterans, which the biggest move that I think that they did make was giving him a little bit more help from the wide receiver position on guys that can consistently get open. Getting Deontay Johnson in there, I think, is a huge help for Bryce Young. The stat that really jumped off the board at me last year for them was the fact that they had the lowest open rate for any wide receiver group in the league.
Yeah,
it
didn't surprise me though.
What you saw watching the game is like these guys just couldn't get open, and Bryce Young, he just seemed nervous to make a mistake, so he wasn't trying to fit it into there. But then you saw like the 2 games that he missed, and Andy Dalton came in, and Andy Dalton, Red Rocket, was just throwing it out there.
He was, and he had successful games.
Red Rifle,
but he also threw.
He
was also throwing picks.
Very different.
He was also throwing picks at the same time. I think you're right. Bryce Young was a little more conservative. I mean, it showed because he didn't have more interceptions than touchdowns. He didn't have a ton of touchdowns though either, but he wasn't going to the point of, your Mitch Trubisky's, your guys that come in and just throw up anything and throw a bunch of picks up. I think at the end of the day, it was a quiet season for him, and for the number 1 pick, it looked bad. I think the grass is greener this year. I'm on the opposite thought process.
I know we've kind of gone back and forth about this with like what you think that is going to happen for Bryce Young. I'm just not there yet, which is a reason why I really haven't drafted a lot of Panthers in any one of my drafts. It's just I have to see it first. Like, not that I have to spend a lot of draft capital to go and get Deontay Johnson or go and get Adam Thielen.
I mean, you can get Bryce Young for free. Adam Thielen's going so late.
Yeah, but there's other guys there that I'm like, they're in positions where I know that they're going to be good.
Yeah.
Versus me banking on
drafting
having a huge step forward in year 2.
Well,
and I just don't see it. I'm not confident with what I saw from Bryce Young. I know that he was kind of playing tight butthole and playing very conservatively, but I just don't see a huge jump forward for year 2. Not much else has changed other than bringing in Deontay Johnson. I know they got Xavier Leggett.
Which I liked him a lot in the draft, and I'll get into the wide receivers, but I want to stick here on Bryce Young because I want this little section here to be about Bryce Young. And the thing I like about Bryce is not only did they bring in wide receiver help, you already mentioned the coaching staff. You didn't mention Dave Canales. I mean, coming over from Tampa and what Baker Mayfield.
That's what I meant, not Shane Steichen.
Not Steichen. Yeah, Canales. What he was able to do for Baker Mayfield and make that offense a actual solid passing offense in a team that was probably more better fit for running the ball just because you had Baker Mayfield at the helm coming after Tom Brady. And Baker Mayfield wasn't a dink and dunk type of guy that we saw Tom Brady at the end of his career. It helped out. I mean, you saw Mike Evans have a surge there. I think we're going to see that continue for Tampa, but now I'm going to see a change of the guard here in Carolina. And I think the offense, it's probably going to be a run-first offense here because you still do have Miles Sanders and you have a successful Chuba Hubbard and you draft Jonathan Brooks. But you bring in, like you said, Leggett, you bring in Deontay Johnson. You had a 1,000-yard receiver in Adam Thielen. you have three guys that can make Bryce Young successful. Am I saying he's going to throw 30 touchdowns? Am I saying he's going to throw for 4,000 yards? No. But if he hits the 3,000-yard mark and he hits about 25 touchdown passes, that to me is a successful season for an NFL quarterback on a team that bad.
Yep. So here's my thing, and the comparison. I know what he did I know what Canales did in Tampa, and kind of fixed that offense. But Baker has a much stronger arm than Bryce does, and Baker also had Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, which I think are light years better than Deontay and Thielen.
Well, okay. The one thing I will say is Mike Evans is a Hall of Fame receiver. He's going to be. I mean, just what he's done. But you can also chuck the ball up to Mike. Like that's what Baker did. You could chuck the ball up to Mike Evans, and you're pretty confident he's coming down with it.
Right.
You can't do that with any of the guys here. You're hoping that's why you drafted Xavier Leggett. But Deontay Johnson, the amount of separation that man has in comparison to the field of wide receivers in the NFL is impressive.
Well, he's been a top 3 separator, and for the last 3 or 4 years.
So if anything, he's got himself a guy that.
So I do like that. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, but I just think all right, we're talking about a huge step forward, and I still think a huge step forward still doesn't make him fantasy relevant. Like that's where I'm kind of at with him.
Well, okay. I mean,
all right. So a guy that I got in like in the mock draft that we just completed, so was Will Levis in the 13. All right. So Will Levis or Bryce?
Oh, I'm taking Will Levis.
Okay, Baker or Bryce?
I'd take Baker. I mean, I'm not. I had to think about it only because. In a situation, it depends. Okay, so
how about this one?
Hold on. A redraft league non-keeper, I'm taking Baker. But if I have a situation to have a keeper position in a late round pick, I would take a shot on Bryce Young.
All right. Well, how about this one? JJ McCarthy or Sam Darnold or
Bryce Young.
Bryce Young.
I'm taking Bryce Young because I know who's starting.
I'm saying. The starter in Minnesota.
Oh, I take the starter in Minnesota because I have Justin Jefferson.
Okay.
And Jordan Addison. I have Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, two solid wide receivers there.
All right.
The starting receivers are better than Carolina.
Oakland. Or Vegas.
I would only do it if it was Minshew at starter.
You wouldn't do Aiden O'Connell?
I don't love Aiden O'Connell. And so, we tend to forget too. They have improved. They've improved the line, and we also. Anybody who was an SEC fan watched Bryce Young and what he did. Not just like Heisman winning Bryce Young, but the way he was able to extend plays, help his team down the field, win ball games by extending plays. He doesn't have to be this pocket passer, and he's not going to be that pocket passer. And that's the little bit of the Baker Mayfield he kind of has in him. And I think what you're going to see from Bryce Young too
Baker can take a hit. Bryce ain't taking a hit.
He doesn't need to take a hit though. He could throw the ball away.
I'm just saying
that's the thing that Baker does that I think is dumb. I think he's a tough, lunch pail type of guy.
I kind of like that old school.
Well, so do I. I mean, that's the reason I like Bryce Harper as a baseball player too. It's the Pete Rose.
Don't say that around me. Don't ever say that you like Bryce Harper around me.
Okay, well that's why I like the Pete Rose style of baseball.
There you go.
Okay,
I'll
put it that way. So, but at the end of the day, when you look at what you're getting out of Bryce Young, I get it. Anthony Richardson is giving you more in terms of fantasy potential because he is a runner, and Bryce is not much of a runner. But he's also not a guy who's going to sit in the pocket either. I just think there's potential in Carolina for in the next 2 years. If you're in a keeper league, you grab him. And if you have a throwaway pick in the 15th pick of your draft, and you want to get another quarterback that has a chance. And all those other guys that you're mentioning are off the board. But, would you rather have Daniel Jones or Bryce Young on a pick here?
Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
I'd rather have Drake May. Honestly, for me, I'm I know this is harsh. I know this is going to sound harsh. I'd take pretty much any quarterback over Bryce Young.
You take 31 of the 32 quarterbacks.
Yep.
I'm not on the same page as you. But that being said, it could fall in the favor of your
Geno
thoughts.
Over him. I'll take... literally any. I'll take Zach Wilson over him.
Okay. Well, all I'm going to say. I mean, Zach Wilson was a top 3 pick and has potential in a new home. But
I'm just saying, there's more potential on those offenses.
You say that, but I think I think you're overlooking how improved this offense is actually going to be.
I don't think that. I don't think it's going to be that improved.
I actually think it's going to be.
I think are they going to be more competitive than they were last year? Yeah.
I also think it's going to be a more pass heavy offense on top of that.
I don't.
Like that's where I think they put the money and they put their capital into the passing game.
Well,
all they did was draft Jonathan Brooks, but that's a future pick. If they play Jonathan Brooks and we'll get into this, if they play him for a play this season, it's a mistake.
Yeah, so we'll kind of transition into the running back room now.
Yeah,
because this is I think is the most interesting topic from a fantasy perspective, because in a lot of redrafts, in a lot of best balls, I'm seeing Jonathan Taylor go fairly early, and I'm in the same boat as you.
You mean Jonathan Brooks fairly early?
Jonathan Brooks.
Yeah, he's been going like 7th, 8th round, which is pretty early.
So I'm in the same boat as you. Like, I don't think he should play a single down this year. They're going to stink. Like
it doesn't benefit the team.
Like, they're going to probably have the number 1 overall pick again this year.
And the Giants are going to trade up into it.
Maybe. Possibly.
For a quarterback.
But I think that Brooks doesn't help this offense. Let him recover fully. He had a late season. It was week 11 where he ended up tearing his ACL. I know that he is looking good. I know he is like recovering well and on pace to play during the season. I think it's a mistake if they do actually play him. This is the long-term investment. Brooks is the long-term investment to kind of get you to the next step. He's going to be the offense. Where kind of what we were saying about Bryce Young is you think it's going to be more pass-heavy. I actually disagree. I think that this offense is going to stay more conservative. It's going to be more of a run-first team. Just how they were in Tampa. I mean, Rachaad White, look at the season that he had. Because they ran the ball a lot. They got the running backs involved. They have on this team.
Well, that offense ran a great a 1-2 punch. Like they established a run, and I think Carolina's going to do that.
So between Chuba, Brooks, Miles Sanders, and Rashad Penny, this is a very talented backfield room, and I think they're going to utilize these guys here. I think Chuba is probably my favorite running back to grab. I think in all my best ball drafts, I think I have the most Chuba Hubbard. Okay. Because of the value where you get him.
Yeah, and
which is the 11th or 12th.
You and I have argued too that I think it is a steal of draft because Miles Sanders was brought in and paid to be the guy there, and he lost the job. And Chuba looked good, and he is going to be there. Even if he's not the immediate guy there, you're either going to see the same situation or a 50-50 split. And to get somebody like that in the 11th. Now, I just want to bring this up to close my Bryce Young argument.
I'm so sick of this.
I know you are. But he was not 32nd in terms of yardage. He was not 32nd in terms of touchdowns thrown at all. He was in fact, he was 20th overall in terms of yardage. Dude almost had 3,000 yards in a terrible offense, and he only had 10 touchdowns, which was good for 28th in the league. So just want to put that out there, that your draft, he did not finish 32nd where you expect him to. He didn't even finish out even 30th. Mm-hmm. But we're talking about the running backs here. The biggest thing...
you had people with half seasons. Realize that. Just understand that. You had a lot of teams, a lot of players with half seasons.
20th in terms of yardage is still good. I mean,
Burrow's not in that conversation.
Okay, so you punt him to 21st.
Right. Daniel Jones not in that conversation.
He would not. You think he would have thrown for 3,500 yards?
Maybe.
Daniel Jones? No. He would have been probably right there with Bryce Young.
Touchdowns would have been higher.
Maybe. The dude had 3 touchdowns in how many games he played? And more interceptions?
Herbert was out of that.
Herbert played almost a full season.
He missed games.
Yeah. Doesn't matter. He almost played a full season. So anyway, going to the running backs, Chuba's the one I'm targeting here because of how late the value is. And you're not wasting. It's not like it's a waste of pick. Like you have an upside in the 11th round, 10th, 11th, 12th round, wherever you may get him in your league, that gives you a good flex opportunity. And if he just takes the role again this year, he's more than a flex opportunity. He was a startable player, and he won people leagues at the end of the season.
What I'm afraid is what the Panthers are going to do is rush Jonathan Brooks back, and they're going to give him a heavy workload, and he's going to get injured again, and it's going to ruin this kid's career. So, because I think he is real as a pure runner, he's the best running back to come out of this draft class.
Correct, and I think he was the.
I don't think he's the best overall running back, but he's the best pure
runner. Yeah, and to me, that's what teams are also trying to look for too.
So he has the home run ability. He's coming back off a late season knee injury. I really don't want to see him before week 8. Well, at all.
I don't have any part of him in redraft. I have him in best ball and I have him in dynasty drafts. Those are the two that I'm willing to take an opportunity on because it builds in that whole opportunity in the fact that he may not play and he may play.
Well, this is the dynasty. Dynasty is
100%.
He's a first rounder in dynasty for me. But I can't, from a redraft perspective, I'd rather let someone else because Because here's the thing: I don't think that offense is going to be good enough to where he's going to end up. I'm not going to sit there at the end of the season and be like, damn, I lost this year because I didn't get Jonathan Brooks. I don't think that's going to be the case.
No one's going to be saying that, in my opinion.
So, from a redraft perspective, I'm more inclined to just stay away from him this year.
Yeah, I'm on the same page as you. The one thing I will say about this team that I disagree with you is I don't think they're going to be the worst team in this league.
Who do you think is going to be the worst?
I think the Patriots are going to, because of the actual teams the Patriots have to play and their strength of schedule, I think the Patriots are going to lose a lot of ball games.
Well, I mean, this team is playing Atlanta. This team is playing New Orleans. This team is playing Tampa.
It's okay. New Orleans, beatable team. Tampa, difficult, beatable team. Same thing. This division is a division that this team could win some ball games with a little bit of improvement in this offense.
They slug out with each other.
They can, but I still think you're going to see a team. I don't think Washington's going to finish where they did else. These are probably going to. They're still going to finish in the bottom 3. Like there's a chance Denver could be bottom 2, but I think to me they're not going to finish last place. But anyway, let's move on to the receivers. I mean, we both agree Chuba Hubbard's the guy to target in the running back game here and get him so late. I'm not touching Miles Sanders, and I'm not taking a chance on Jonathan Brooks. Wide receiver-wise, though, I am taking a chance with Deontay Johnson. And because you can get him in the 8th round, maybe 9th round, as a flex play, bench player, it's pure volume that you're going to get. And in PPR, it's a no-brainer. In non-PPR, you need some touchdowns there. And he did have that surge of touchdowns last year in one of the worst passing offenses in football, which gives me hope in Carolina because Carolina was better than they were in Pittsburgh in terms of most metrics across the board.
Yeah, so Deontay Johnson is a guy, again, from a PPR standpoint, I would absolutely draft him. I think he's really, I think he has value. I think Thielen, based on where his value is being taken, he's a great value pick wide receiver. And I have a lot of Thielen in best ball drafts just because of where I was able to get him. And I'm not shying away from the wide receiver group here. And I do think that they make a step forward from last year. I just don't think it's going to be a huge step forward. And I thought last year they should have started Andy Dalton. They should have let Bryce play behind him. Tom Brady just talked about this, and there's very, very few times in my life I've ever agreed
with Tom
Brady or quoted him or talked about
marrying Giselle. That's number 1.
Divorce Giselle. No.
And leaving the Patriots.
Yeah.
Those are the 2 times that I've agreed with Tom Brady.
So he was talking about how there's this huge, and they're better served, like rookie quarterbacks are better served sitting behind players or sitting behind a veteran for a year or 2. I thought that Bryce he was not NFL ready. C.J. Stroud was NFL ready.
And we said that we said that in our preseason too.
Was NFL ready. There are guys that come into the league that you watch them play in college and they are NFL ready. And I think GMs and I think coaches get so caught up with where they draft these guys. Why is it not okay to draft a guy number 1 overall and let him sit behind a veteran for a year to let him learn how to play in the NFL? If you don't see the metrics in practice and you don't see them being completely accurate, it's like Caleb Williams, right? Right now, everyone's assuming that he should be starting there. He's a number 1 pick.
If they had somebody else a veteran behind him that was worth starting, I would say sit him half a season.
But if you have a veteran Again,
because they don't in Chicago.
Josh Allen sat behind Ryan Fitzpatrick for 15 games.
Jordan Love
sat
Patrick
for 4
Mahomes.
years. Patrick Mahomes sat for a year behind Alex Smith.
Aaron Rodgers. These guys came out the door swinging as soon as they were ready to go.
Tom Brady sat behind Bledsoe. Like these guys, there's pedigree behind them.
Yeah.
Like even Purdy, right? Purdy sat for a half a season before coming in, and he sat behind both Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo. Like there is value into sitting and learning how professionals go about and do it. It's the processes. It's the how do you recover from mistakes? It's how do you see defenses? How do you start reading? This is what I'm looking for. When you're in the gun, right? It's so hard to see the error of your way.
Yeah, and make the changes and process that defense. It's very different than college where you can make a mistake. In
college, how much of them are?
There's not pre-snap. There's not a lot of pre-snap in college.
Well, that's what I was going to say. There's no pre-snap in college, and if you don't have pre-snap in the NFL, good luck. You're not
doing it because defensive coordinators are magicians. There's a reason why defensive coordinators become head coaches. You don't really see a lot of defensive coordinators go down to the college level.
No.
You see offensive coordinators go to the college level,
right?
But you don't see the defensive ones because they stick in the NFL for a longer term.
Yeah.
Let's keep moving on here. Let's just wrap up the wide receiver crew. We both think that there's value in this wide receiver group. We're not shying away from it.
Yeah, and I do want to talk to you because this is a guy that you really like, and I'm not sold on. Is Xavier Leggett?
I'm tempering my expectations with him. I liked him coming into the draft. Like he was my favorite receiver in the draft. I love
listening to him talk.
Yeah, it's fantastic. But I loved him in the draft.
He's a linguist.
And I was hoping that being where he was falling down to in terms of the pecking order of the wide receivers, that he would have been to, he would have taken where Keon Coleman went, or he would have taken where to Kansas City or someplace else besides Carolina. Carolina really made me take a step back and say, this guy is not a guy that I'm investing heavily in fantasy, but I could see there being a good future for him.
I think if he went to Pittsburgh, it would have been a much better fit. I think if he went to...
There's a lot of teams that I could have seen a really good fit for.
Yeah, I just didn't like the landing spot. And again, I think this offense is not going to be focused around passing the ball. So the same way we're excited about 3 different wide receivers in Houston, I can't get excited about 3 wide receivers in Carolina.
And I agree. And that's why, to me...
And is he gonna supplant Adam Thielen? No, not yet.
I mean, not yet, but you never know halfway through a season either. And you're talking about old Adam Thielen. Again, that's why Deontay Johnson's the guy I'm targeting.
Old Adam Thielen, who was the best wide receiver on that team last year.
Correct, because the rest of the wide receiver core was
were young.
We're young and
okay.
Yeah, but not great young. I mean, they did not create separation. They did not get open. They weren't pass catchers.
But we heard the same thing about these guys that we heard about Xavier Leggett and every other rookie wide receiver when they came into the league. Terrence Marshall Jr. was gonna really blow up.
That experience was
Mingo was going to be the next coming, and it's
exactly, which is why I'm saying I'm not investing a lot in Leggett. Yeah. I like him as a wide receiver. I think he has the potential to be that over the middle guy, that red zone threat for this team, but again, it could go either way. You just don't know.
I will say before we finish up with the Panthers, that there is a guy on this team that I do want to talk about really quickly. It's not going to be long, but he's going to be a late sleeper for me. And that's Ja'Tavion Sanders.
And that's who I wanted to get to here.
And so I think he is a guy that if I'm putting a late round sleeper pick on anyone on this team, it's him.
Well, here's the thing. We both liked him. Again, this just comes down to where he fell to team-wise in the draft, because I think he would have been a huge impact to any team he went to, because there were a lot of teams out there that needed a good tight end. But here's the thing I like about him. He's another big body. He's a mismatch for linebackers. You put him and Leggett out there together, the size of those two guys. Bryce Young doesn't have to see over the line to catch these two guys at that point. Right. Number one, he could throw the ball up to either of these two guys. He runs routes like wide receivers do. He has some work to do on the blocking game, which is why Tommy Tremble right now is in front of him in terms of depth chart.
Yep.
I don't see that. I don't care about depth chart when you look at tight ends. I care more about who's the receiving tight end when it comes to fantasy. And this is the receiving tight end here. So again, you're right. If you're going to take a chance on something late and a sleeper pick, and you have a top tier tight end, you want to throw somebody back up on there, this is your guy.
Yeah, this is who I like here. Anyway, we'll be back with the Atlanta Falcons